Welcome to Slay, the podcast where we dive into all aspects of female health, fitness, and life. I'm your host, Louise Hazel, and in today's episode, we'll be diving into the topic of personal growth and professional development. In a world where we women continue to face unique challenges and barriers in the realms of finance and professional advancement, it's more crucial than ever to prioritize our own growth, financial well-being, and professional success. Investing in ourselves is not just about accumulating wealth or climbing the corporate ladder. It's about claiming our worth, harnessing our potential, and creating a future of abundance and fulfillment on our own terms. Today, we'll explore the multifaceted aspects of self investment for women, from advancing our careers and building wealth to nurturing our personal and professional development. So, whether you're a woman navigating the complexities of the workforce, an aspiring entrepreneur charting your path to success, or someone simply looking to take control of your future, this episode is for you. Get ready to be inspired and empowered to invest in yourself and your career like never before. Joining us today to dissect this topic is a woman who has perfected the art of leveling up. It's former professional track athlete, personal trainer, turned real estate agent, Ciara Shaw.
Hi.
Ciara, thank you for
Yes.
joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
What a pleasure. It's
Yes.
been so long since
Yes.
we've caught up.
Yes,
and
it
so
has.
much has changed.
It sure has.
Look,
Yeah.
last time we met, we were talking about your transition from track and field into personal training and, some of the things that we both experienced as pro athletes,
Yes.
then, turn personal trainers.
Yes.
But I want to take it right the way back to your beginnings because we have a similar background in that sense. And I want to know about your track and field career because I feel like once an athlete, always an athlete.
Yes.
But how did you get started in track and field?
Oh, okay. So you know what? I actually was a soccer player first.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad put me in soccer at 8 years old. And from 8 to 18, I was a hardcore soccer star.
Mm-hmm.
So I played all the way until high school. But during high school, I found a niche for running. Well, I've always been very fast. So I was a center forward. So I was always the lead goal scorer, always extremely disciplined.
Mm-hmm.
And in ninth grade, I tried out for the track team and I actually made it all the way to like the state championship meet.
Huge.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think my first meet, I ran a 63 in the 400. That was my
Wow.
first meet.
Wow.
And then by the end of that year, I ran a 58 as a
Wow.
14-year-old girl that had never trained for track. I actually went straight from soccer, which ended in March,
Mm-hmm.
and then didn't train for track and just started running on the track. Had no idea how to strategically run the 400, but they put me in the 400 because I could hold my speed for a long time, and I didn't want to do it at first.
I was going to say,
Yeah, I
they
wanted.
threw you in at the deep end.
They really did, and I was like, I'm not running the 400, but I stuck with it, and I fell in love with it, and then I said goodbye to soccer, and I focused on track. Although I did compete until 12th grade,
Mm-hmm.
senior year for soccer, I was like a hardcore track athlete.
What made you specialize in the solo sport? Were there any like characteristics or
Yeah.
character traits that you were like, yeah, this is more for me than the team sport?
Because I had control, as a
Mhm.
team sport athlete. If the team doesn't collectively do well, then you don't advance. But track is one of those sports that it's all on you. So
Mhm.
the pressure is on. Very early on, I was always a natural leader. My parents really pushed me to excel in school. My mom is an educator,
Mhm.
and my father an author or writer, excuse me, and worked in property development.
Mhm.
They always pushed me to lead with a purpose, lead with intention. So very early on, I had that discipline.
And what was the end goal for your track and field career?
Oh gosh, the end goal, gold medal.
Mm-hmm.
That was from very early on. I always set my standards for that, and I used to write it down and put it on my wall as a kid in
Mhm.
every sport that I did. Didn't realize that at like 13 years old, I was manifesting. Now
Mhm.
that I look back, but yeah. So my end goal was gold medal, and and you know what? In track, obviously, it's about your time, right? So I just wanted to keep improving and improving,
Mhm.
and kind of came like like this obsession with just getting better and better and better.
Take me back to your first gold medal or the highlight, like
Oh,
that career moment that changed everything for you and affirmed that you were on the right path.
Okay. So I was probably 22 years old, and this was I was the first in school history to make it to NCAA finals for Division One sports. And I went to a small Division One school, Cal State Fullerton.
Cal State.
Yes,
What's up?
yes, Orange County. And it was the semifinals for the 400-meter dash. Only the top two advance.
Yep.
And if I made it to the finals, I became an All-American. And so that was like, oh my gosh, this is my moment. This is my chance. I can still feel the race right now. And I remember when the gun went off, I was at the 200-meter mark, and I was actually behind everyone. And I was like, okay, you need to pick it up and turn it over. And I ended up winning that race.
Wow.
And made it onto the finals for obviously I'm not gonna tell you what year, but no, I'm joking. So made it to the finals for the women's 400-meter dash. Was the first time in school history anyone ever made the finals at an NCAA championship meet. And I was like, okay, this is it right here. And in fact, let me backtrack. I'm sorry. The year before that, as a junior in college, I went to the USA Championship.
Yeah.
I totally forgot. So that wasn't the moment. The moment was before that. And then I made a US team in college.
Yeah. You were the standout athlete, weren't you? At that time.
I was.
Like, I felt like people were just hanging those gold medals on your neck, and you were expected to perform.
Yeah.
So what did it feel like when you were finally lining up against the caliber of athlete that you know, had come accustomed to racing, and you'd made like the All-Americans, and all of a sudden you're in a race and it's like, okay, this is no longer regional, this is national, this is
global.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm going to give you like a little insight to this. I was already prepared because my coach, whom Coach Copper, I love you to death. You literally changed my life. Great female figure. She would put me in. Okay, so in college, you would enter your time and then you would be seated based on your time. You remember that, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay.
And so sometimes I used to shave a little bit off.
Okay, yeah. So my coach, I was first year in college. Now remember, I didn't tell you this part of my story. I dropped 7 seconds in the 400 in college from the first year to the last year.
So what was your time going into college was what?
A 57.
So you dropped it down to what, 51?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
For those people who are not accustomed with 400-meter running, that basically equates to about 50 meters. So if you imagine somebody crossing the line and then someone being halfway down the end straight, that's basically the amount of progress that you made in 1 year.
Well, 4 years. 4 years.
4 years, sorry.
4 years, yes. Yeah. So, okay. So she would put me in races where she would enter my time at 53 and I had only ran a 57.
Got you.
So I would be in lane 5. So you can let everyone know what lane 5 means, right? Lane 5 means that you are the fastest on the track.
Absolutely.
So I vividly remember we were at ASU and the announcer is calling lanes 1 through 8. I'm in lane 5, so I assume that everyone around me has around 56, 55, 57.
Slower time.
Yeah. So when they get to lane 1, they say 54. I was like, oh my gosh, I hadn't even ran a 54 before, or not at that point, not yet. And they get to me and they say 53-0. And remember, I only ran a 57 at this time.
She's a savage. What a G.
Okay, so let me tell you what happened. I PR'd because that whole field pushed me to run faster.
Yeah.
And that tactic I use to this day. I set my bar so high that I don't just start anything that I do at the level where I believe I'm at or where I'm at that moment. I always push myself to that next level. And it just forces me to be the person or be in the position that I want to be.
Do you think also that at the moment at which the announcers mentioned 53, that the other girls mentally choked a little bit?
Yes.
Because, you know, knowing that you're the fastest girl in the heat, do you know what I mean? Is, you know, different from reality, but believing you're the fastest girl in the heat, I would say is how I got my gold medal. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, it's all about the thought first. And like I said, you know, I read a lot of books and I do a lot of manifestations, but I didn't realize I was manifesting at such a young age, but I was.
Absolutely. So when did you choose to leave your track and field career behind, and why?
Okay, so it was right before the pandemic. And I
Hmm.
think that because I didn't know what was going to happen in the uncertainties and my contract had changed,
Hmm.
I hung up my spikes.
Hmm.
And it was time. I was ready to transition into my career as a young professional. And it was just the right time for me.
And you chose personal training.
I did. So I was a personal trainer to like the stars
Hmm.
in LA. And just based off of my network, I just started utilizing that and leveraged that.
Hmm.
And then it transitioned me into my next phase.
Mm.
What,
But why did you choose personal training? Did it feel like it was something that you could naturally step into with
yeah.
ease?
Yeah, it was definitely something that I was already good at. It
Hmm.
was what I had done every day. So I wanted to monetize off of what I was already an expert in. And
Hmm.
that's one thing that I know in order to be successful, it's maximizing that profit of something that you're already an expert in.
Hmm.
And I just utilized that skill set.
Did it
And I
come?
loved it. I
Yeah.
loved it because some people I would actually run with them. It allowed me to still be active.
Hmm. And let's talk about the financial well-being of track and field. Did you
Yeah.
feel like you left track and field in a really like financially healthy place, or do you feel like perhaps personal training was going to give that to you in a way that track didn't?
Yeah, definitely. Track is one of those sports where it's performance based,
Hmm.
and that's how your salary, or your prize money is going to be distributed to you. And I felt that personal training was a way for me to kind of get the utilize get paid for my skill set. So track is just so up and down that I
Hmm.
was ready to be a little bit more financially stable.
Yeah. And when we first met, we talked about investments. You were like, and I was like, oh, Ciara's savvy. Like she's got this bigger plan rather than just being a
Hmm.
personal trainer. It's more than that.
Yeah.
There are these lofty goals, and you talked about, investments and things that you might be interested
Yeah.
in by way of opportunities. Since we met, and what investments have you dilly dallied in or dabbled in
Okay.
since?
So I'm actually becoming a little bit more of a student. So right
Hmm.
now I'm learning, and because of the market right now, I haven't put my money in one specific place just yet.
Hmm.
I was able to work with when I first started in real estate. I was connected with some high net worth developers, and
Hmm.
so they had been kind of teaching me a few things about developing because that's ultimately what I want to get into. I want to start developing.
Hmm.
So I haven't made my decision just yet, but soon. So to
Excellent.
be,
Well, I can't wait to hear about it, and I will be
yeah.
following your lead. Um, when you transitioned again, so we went from track and field to personal training,
Hmm.
and now you find yourself 18 months into a career in real estate. Did you find it kind of like hard to transition again, or did it feel like a natural journey to you? What was it that was calling when you decided to kind of like, cut down your diary and your hours in personal training and basically qualify as a real estate agent?
Well, you know what? I had been secretly studying real estate for 10 years without
Hmm.
realizing it. And the aspect of real estate that I was studying was developing and flipping and just learning about how to build a home. And so I think I was a little bit more prepared than I thought I was.
Was this coming from your dad's influence, perhaps, or
Yes,
other
coming from
sources?
dad's influence, and also just coming from I started watching a lot of house flipping shows.
Hmm.
And so
What were
that
you watching?
I
I
was
need to
watching
know.
Flip or Flop.
Yeah.
I also watched gosh, I can't even remember at this time, but there's so many I watched.
Hmm.
And I would watch them for like 8 hours a day.
Yeah. Got
So
you.
I started becoming like very, very entrenched with the world of real estate.
Hmm.
So to answer your question, I felt very prepared because again, I didn't realize I was studying. One thing about me
Absolutely.
is I'm always a student
Hmm.
first, and then I kind of dabble in.
And what was the attraction, real estate, as opposed to other kind of career
There's
options?
no ceiling. So
Mm.
what you put in is what you'll get out, just like track.
Absolutely. I feel like this is like this common theme with you. We're talking,
Yeah.
a little bit briefly earlier, being that solo sport athlete, making the decision to be a solo sport athlete to a certain extent real estate is very similar.
Mm-hmm.
And, personal training, certainly is that, especially when you're managing your own diary, your own book of clients. And so ultimately, you've gone from literally managing yourself on the track
Yes.
to then managing a book of clients, to then
Mm-hmm.
who are trying to keep fit, to then managing a book of clients who are trying to, change homes, level up,
Yes.
perhaps invest. And so there's this kind of thread of this solopreneur that kind of exists in you that's kind of always really been there. How does that come out now in this new career that you've found and chosen in real estate, that competitiveness and that edge?
Well, it comes out in a way where, so as an athlete, and I believe that I was so passionate, I became obsessed with the sport.
Mm-hmm.
So now this is my new passion, my new obsession. And so I've leveraged the clients that I trained
Mm-hmm.
and I was starting to sell to those people.
Mm-hmm.
So that those are my first clients.
Yeah.
And because I built such a strong rapport and relationship with them, they trusted me. I was in their homes
Mm-hmm.
for years, every day almost.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess once again, it felt like I was prepared, although I didn't know everything, and I'm still learning. Um, it feels very natural.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it feels so what like I said, one thing I love about real estate is that there is no ceiling. So
Mm-hmm.
I know that if I put a lot of effort and energy into it, it'll manifest, but it won't manifest necessarily at that moment. It
Yeah.
takes time, right? And just like with track, it didn't happen overnight that I improved 7 seconds in one event. It took
Mm-hmm.
years.
Mm.
So I'm up for the challenge.
What would you say are the downsides to real estate? Because we see so much, like you said, you were watching, flip or flop, tons of real estate television shows. We now have obviously the agency. Are you affiliated with the same brokerage?
So I'm not. I'm glad that you brought that up. So
Yeah.
I'm with the Beverly Hills Estates, which is an ultra luxury real estate brokerage. My territories that I specialize in are Beverly Hills, the Sunset Strip, which is like West Hollywood area, and then the Bird Street, which is also in West Hollywood,
So we're talking
and
multi-million
Bel Air.
dollar
Yeah.
listings.
Yes.
What's the most expensive listing that you've been attached to?
30 million.
30 million.
Yeah.
When you opened, because obviously, they give you the key. When you opened the door and walked into that $30 million home,
Hmm.
what were you thinking?
That I belong there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It was just like, welcome home.
I would have just taken a bag.
Well, because you guess what, Lou, excuse me. I had been in these homes before, remember, as a personal trainer. So I'd been in and out
Absolutely.
of these homes. It was almost like, okay, now it's my moment to embody the home.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's not about necessarily training a client, it's about now embodying this home and selling it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a little bit more, there's a bigger purpose there. So I went into it with the same energy I would like a track meet. Now, of course, I was blown away. Let's not even like pretend. I was blown away. Took pictures, called my mom, called friends. In fact, I have a big listing coming up that I'm definitely going to be inviting to the party that I'll be
Fab.
having to
We're
Twilight.
open housing. We're open
Yes,
housing.
yes. But I knew I belonged, so I just embodied that.
I love it. Do
Hmm.
you take your shoes off?
Figuratively or literally?
Literally.
No,
No.
no.
Okay. Because if I had like a $30 million home
Yeah,
and I was like, yeah, I'm going to put it up for sale, you better be taking your shoes off at
yeah,
the door. I
yeah.
don't care whether you
So what
brought socks
we
or
use
not.
booties,
Oh,
booties.
got you.
Yep. So we'll
Yes.
protect the shoe, so that we're not scuffing up the floors. But yeah, booties. But I never walk barefoot.
Um, has there been anybody in Hollywood whose home you've seen, been in, whatever, that you were just like, this is it? Like, give me the keys right now. This is the home that I've dreamed of, and the one that
Mm.
you just cannot stop thinking about.
Okay, let's think. There's a lot. Well, there's a home that I just sold 2 days ago.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. And this one is in the Hollywood Hills. It has a very Spanish influence. It
Mm-hmm.
overlooks the entire city.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the most expensive. It's a couple million. It's not 30 million, but this one, so I get attached to these homes. Like I become like what obviously my interest is for the client, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I become so invested in these homes that I study it, that I just learn a lot about the home before I sell it. Okay, but to answer your question, one that I was blown away by. okay, I was there 2 days ago. It's a $60 million house in Bel Air,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been featured on a lot of the reality shows.
Yep.
And I mean, it's $60 million. So there's an infinity pool, there's a steam room and sauna, and there's a gym. And that one I just love the most because it's very serene and quiet and private.
Mm-hmm.
And it's $60 million. I think that's the most expensive one that I've been in.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Okay, when can we go over?
Whenever you're ready.
Can't wait. Um, what do we need to know about real estate in LA right now? Because so many people that listen to the podcast are in the area. They know that this is like one of the highest,
Yeah.
price points in the country for real estate, purely and simply because there's international buyers, right? But what is the everyday person who's looking to perhaps get on the, on the market for the first time? What do they need to know? Where are the pockets? Where are the opportunities?
Okay. Okay. So definitely it's always about location, 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 right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a lot of beauty in other locations as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I will drive to an undesirable neighborhood just because I understand real estate and I understand architecture. But if we're really trying to get down to getting bang for your buck, you want to find the ugliest house in the best area.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can just rehab that house, fix it up to your liking, and then the value goes up. So I think that that's something that a young or someone that's looking to purchase their first home should really focus on
Mm-hmm.
is get the best location area, but the ugliest home.
So one of the things that has been a real challenge for first-time
Yeah.
buyers trying to get on the property market in LA has been the interest rates, the high
Yes.
ass interest rates.
Yes.
But what impact is that having on inventory and the availability of properties?
Okay, so we're seeing that there's like a little bit of downward spiral of people listing their homes,
Uh-huh.
right? So there's not the inventory is a little stale.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're talking about the average buyer, um, it's definitely okay. So it's definitely negatively impacting the city,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what people don't realize about real estate is we have to put real estate is a pinnacle of like the world, right? In terms of like influx of money.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're not buying or selling real estate, then the economy is not doing well.
Mm.
And so I think that just because of COVID, um, it's really put a damper on like our economy. We see that gas prices are extremely high and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. Um, but we say in real estate, date the interest rate and
Mm-hmm.
marry the home.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now you're not fighting against anyone. So if you're a first time buyer, you're going to be going up against yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives you an opportunity to lock in a good price for a home.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you'll have a high interest rate, but when the interest rate does drop, you can refinance.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for those that understand real estate, they're buying homes right now because they know that they are not going to be in bidding wars.
Mm-hmm. So you're a first-time buyer, imagine you're in LA. You still want a good deal. Where am I going to? What pockets am I looking at?
Okay. So your first time buyer in LA, well, obviously LA is a beach town, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we want to be as close to the water as possible. And if it's your first time, it just really depends on where exactly you want to be. But there's a pocket called Mar Vista.
Mm-hmm.
So it's west of the 405.
Mm-hmm.
There's a hill, right? It overlooks the ocean, but it's not necessarily Venice or Santa Monica.
Mm-hmm.
It's Los Angeles. It's a neighborhood. And there's really good pockets in Mar Vista. Yeah. So keep that in mind, Mar Vista.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get close to the beach, if you want to be a little bit more central, there is south of West Hollywood. So
Uh-huh.
like mid city.
Yep.
That's a great area too because it's central.
Mm-hmm.
You have a lot of Spanish influence there. There's a lot of new developments as well,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not necessarily West Hollywood
Got
either.
it. Which was just kind of astonishingly high at the moment and always has been, always
Yeah.
probably will be because of how popular it is.
Mm-hmm.
What about as a first-time buyer buying to let?
Okay, so you're essentially buying, and then, okay, so this is I just had a conversation with someone about this in my office. So, someone bought a property, it's a multifamily
Mm-hmm.
unit, and they live in one of them.
Yep.
So, you buy like a fourplex or duplex, and you live in one part of the compound or property, and then you sublet or you lease out the other parts of the property. I think it's very It's a very smart move, especially for first-time home buyers. Now, there is a rule. So when you buy a home, the first 2 years you have to live in it. If it's just a single family home, that's
Hmm.
the rule. But if you have a multifamily unit, you can live in one of them and then essentially make your mortgage based, with collecting rent from everybody else. So it's
Hmm.
very smart. That's something that I really push for first-time home buyers.
Fabulous. Let me and Eric know if there's any
Yes,
of those going. We'll be
I
well interested in that.
yes, come into my office and we'll get you going,
I
set
love
up.
it. We actually viewed one recently, just nearby, and it was interesting. It was a really interesting, like, potential opportunity. And he's always like, I'm that type of person that I like a big risk, and
Yep.
he's more risk averse. And
Mhm.
so Eric's like, this is a really good option, and I'm like, it's a good option until you don't get along with your neighbors or whoever's
Yes.
moved in. And
Yeah.
so, but we'll see how that works out. Maybe he'll get his way, or maybe I'll just get the house of my dreams.
Yeah, get the house of your dreams. That's what I think.
That's what I'm going for
Yes.
anyway. So you've managed to navigate like a number of career transitions, and the thing that really strikes me about you, Ciara, is I feel like you're a person that just doesn't hesitate.
No, yeah.
You've got this picture for yourself of what you want to achieve in life, and the medium of how you're going to achieve it changes, whether it's track and field, personal training, or real estate agents, and realty. Is that
Mhm.
right? In the
Yeah.
UK we call it
Realty,
just
yeah.
estate agency.
Mhm.
And but the ultimate goal is the life that you want to lead.
Mhm.
And so I feel like there's this like part of you that will achieve it no matter what the medium is. But what do you say to those women who are
Yeah.
out there and that are scared to make a career change, that are thinking, oh, well, what if I lose? What if I'm leaving too much behind or too much on the table?
Yep. So I literally just had this conversation with one of my best friends, and I feel like I'm the pivot queen.
Mm-hmm.
So my to answer that, I would say first, would you be more afraid of failing, or okay, are you more afraid to fail or to not try?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because we're gonna have what you would call a failure along the way. It's not
Mm-hmm.
gonna just go your way. It's point A to point B is not just a straight line. It's
Mm-hmm.
up and down, right? Sideways. Um, and so I don't, thank you so much for the compliment, but I'm not doing this alone. I have a huge support system because I do have self-doubt and I do have worries, and there's moments when I doubt as well,
Mm-hmm.
but I always pick myself back up because I do have a strong support system. But for those women who are even nervous to attempt to try, my advice to them would be, would you live a fulfilled life knowing that you just never tried, right? And I think the answer would be no. So it's better to try than to just, because we're all going to have failure. No
Mm-hmm.
one, everyone, even Michael Jordan, right? Like he didn't win every game,
Mm-hmm.
but he stayed persistent. So persistence is key when you have a goal.
Mm-hmm. And what about the challenges that you faced more recently in real estate? Because this is new territory.
Yes.
Track and field to personal training, they're much closer.
Yes.
But this is different. This
Okay.
is like the corporate world.
This is crazy.
Go
I
for it.
thought that track was crazy and competitive. This is like on a whole different level because in track, it's about your time,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what you put into it, but you can't fake your time.
It's a
Well, yeah,
meritocracy.
unless
It
your
is what
coach
it
puts you
is.
in at a time that you didn't run. But your time, like in order to qualify for the Olympics, you have to hit the time, right? You know
Okay.
that. So this you can kind of finesse. This is an industry where there's a lot of fluff. So you have
Who's finessing what in real estate?
everybody.
Like, give me the character traits. Like, if there are 3 different character types, like that you're aware of in the
Well,
industry.
you have to finesse.
Uh-huh.
That's the hidden thing about this industry is because you're competing with so many other agents. So the one thing that so it's kind of part of the culture,
Mm-hmm.
which I really didn't it's kind of still weird to me because I'm like, you didn't really do this. Like I'm thinking about like looking at someone, right? And I'm like, you actually didn't sell this or you didn't do this,
Mm-hmm.
but they're acting or they're attaching themselves to it. But that's also part of manifestation.
Mm-hmm.
So attaching themselves to something is
To a
going to
listing.
to a listing is going to lead them to that listing because of the perception that they give off, right? And so that was something I learned early on that felt weird for me as an athlete
So it's
because
like almost success by association
yes,
as opposed to by doing the work, which is the complete antithesis of track and field.
exactly. So
Like you
it's
don't
very
run
weird.
faster unless you're doing the reps.
Yes. Yeah.
Crazy.
So that's kind of the game, especially in luxury real estate. And
Uh-huh.
that's what I specialize in. And it's been something that's been very weird to me,
Mhm.
but I'm rolling with the punches.
Yeah. So what qualities or traits do you feel like you're bringing through from track and field in your days as that elite, you know, USA track athlete that the other real estate agents just can't touch you on?
Oh, okay. So it's literally like if I commit to something, I'm going to do it, right?
Hmm.
So I'm showing up the same way I would show up to practice
Hmm.
early, well prepared. Um, I'll take on as I'll take on a big load because I know I can handle it. Just like in a or just like at practice,
Hmm.
your coach would say you have
Just like a
10
400
400s.
meter.
Yeah. And you're like, oh my gosh, I have 10 400s,
Yeah.
but you can do it. So I'm using those same principles as I would as like at practice. Like every day is still practice for me. It's just a different practice now.
Hmm.
And I've been through this before as an athlete. I can definitely get through that.
So when you mention competitiveness, because we've seen the shows, we've seen Selling Sunset, we've seen the
Yes.
agency. Do you are all brokerages, are all agencies like that? You know, when you talk about that competitive nature, do you feel like there are these interagency beefs or
Yes.
competitive rivalries?
Yes.
Oh, it is as bad as
Yes.
that.
Yes.
I just thought it was just for the
Nope.
cameras.
It's definitely alive and well. And I've experienced it
Wow.
firsthand.
And here's the interesting thing, because I think, naturally in a workplace, I think a lot of the time, especially when we're watching these types of shows, especially like if we're looking at like Selling Sunset or The Real Housewives, there's this kind of like female rivalry. But does it matter what gender you are in real estate?
Yes.
Okay, so is there more kind of competition female on female or male on female? Does it really matter?
It's all.
Got you.
Yep. It's male to female, it's female to female, it's male to male.
And is it just simply pure and simply because everyone's going for the same goal?
Everyone's going for the same thing. And remember, the way I like, so if you have two athletes that run the 100 meters, one may train this way and one may train that way. So if there's two agents, one may use these sort of tactics and one may use other tactics to get to that goal. So it's just like track.
Crazy.
Just like track. You
Crazy.
want to keep things to yourself. You don't want to expose too much. You don't want to expose too much online because as you guys know, I don't know if you know, there's a settlement that's coming out.
Hmm.
That's already it's the NAR settlement. It's supposed to pass in July. We're not sure. Well, we kind of know it's going to pass. It's with the commissions. So
Right.
now I believe the shows have built, brought an awareness to something that a lot of people didn't know, which were the commissions in real estate
Yep.
and how, much people were getting.
Hmm.
And so those are some of those things that, make some people envious, but just like in sport, if anyone can join, it's just a matter if you're going to put in the effort. But yes, it's very competitive.
Crazy. Could you say that real estate is basically like track and field on steroids?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
I'm like, as I'm listening, I'm like, it sounds like to a certain extent you're in the same kind of playing field
I am.
where it's not necessarily a level playing field. Because as we know, and we've had conversations about this in the past, when it comes to elite track and field, you might make it to a final. There might be 8 athletes in the final. 4 of them might be doping.
Yes.
And you'll never be able to prove it. You'll never be able to know how they got that medal. They might take that medal home. They might get caught out. People might still invest in them. They might even invest even more in them.
I know.
And it's almost like you're playing in the same kind of field
Yeah.
again, no?
So I'm in an industry where I'm like the new girl. I've never been seen before. And there is a lot of nepotism in this industry as
Mhm.
well. So people have been in this for generations. Families have been a part of real estate, for like 100 years. So now, as someone that's new to the industry, I'm building a brand and legacy for my future family, um, you know, by myself, singularly. So you're going against empires, people who've been doing this with their parents from day one, from
Mhm.
like, from the beginning of their career. And it's definitely doggy dog.
Mm. So if there's one word that describes what the trait that you're, or the characteristic that you're building your business on, what is it?
I'm still using, oh, I'm integrity.
Mm-hmm.
So I really show up for my clients in ways that go way beyond real estate. So if that means I'm showing up to your home just to review things with you, if that means that if you call me at 10 o'clock at night, I'm going to answer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like a therapist as well. I'm guiding you through one of the biggest purchases of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And for some, it actually just might be an investment. So maybe they're just wanting to put their money somewhere. So now I'm a financial advisor.
Mm-hmm.
So my job is 24/7. It doesn't end just because it says 5 o'clock, right? It seeps well into the night, weekends, holidays. But I enjoy it because I'm building relationships with people that, you know, will be beneficial for my future and theirs.
So where do you find time for yourself? Like, where is the
Oh my God.
self-training and self-care amidst all of this?
I
What is
squeeze
your,
it in.
yeah, what does your routine look like now
Okay,
these
so I
days?
wake up, I have a few personal training clients that I train,
Mm-hmm.
and then I train myself and have a quick lunch, and then I go into my office, and then I look up and it's, been almost a 12-hour day.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So it's basically just like personal training.
It is. It is. It's the same thing, right?
What are you doing to stay on top of your fitness? Are you managing to get out and run? Are you lifting? Like,
Yep.
what does the training look like nowadays?
So I did twist my ankle 6 months ago.
Oh,
So
I'm
I've been
sorry.
rehabbing that. But before that, I was running every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, you know what, just like in track, anything else, I'm like, you know what? I have an hour. It's time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I need to get my workout in. So I'll quickly go to the gym. My gym is literally down the street from my office. So it makes perfect sense for me to be at that gym. And I just get it in and then I just go back to work.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that your other kind of office mates are working out too?
I'm working out with one of my colleagues in literally an hour.
Uh,
Yeah, so I do a
you
group.
keep it tight.
Yes, I keep it tight. It's an hour of big rigorous training and
Mhm.
then I'm done.
Fab. I love that. I feel like I feel like this is going to be a superpower for you in the
Mhm.
world of real estate. You could be getting those guys fit as well.
I am. Yeah.
Ciara, we're going to finish off with 10 quick fire questions. This game is going to be called In or Out.
Okay.
And there's going to be various topics, and I want to get your opinion on them. Is it either in or is it out? So it could be anything from
Okay.
real estate, track and field, to personal training.
Okay, let's go.
Get ready for it. Weightlifting for women.
In.
Mansion tax.
Out.
Oh, this one's not a quick file. I'll leave this one to the end. Performance enhancing drugs.
Out.
Multi-million-dollar listings.
In.
LA Summer Olympics.
In.
Come on, designer shoes.
In.
Ovs. Selling Sunset.
In.
The agency.
Out.
7% interest rates on mortgages.
I'm sorry?
7% interest rates on mortgages.
Out.
Out. And then I want to know the worst 400-meter training session, the one that you dread. If your coach says you've got this tonight.
So, gosh. It started off with an 800 and then it worked its way down to 100 meters. But
Do you go 800, 700 or 800, 600?
800, 750, 700, 650, 600. It just went down increments of 50. That was like insane.
The savage.
And if anyone knows me, I'm a speed quarter miler. So I was never.
Did you make it all the way through?
I did.
Wow.
I don't know how, but I did. That was
Wow.
like 12 intervals.
Okay. So I challenge anybody out there who really loves a good challenge, hit that treadmill.
Oh, and I'm sorry, I didn't tell you there was like 2 minutes rest between each interval.
Okay, you've got 2 minutes rest in between each interval.
Yeah.
800 meters, 750. If you complete the Ciara challenge,
Yes.
then she's going to give you a free training session.
Oh yeah,
At
I
the
am.
Slay Gym.
I am. Yes, I am.
But you have to film it, and you have to film the vomit as well after the session
Yes,
because you're not going to
yes.
make it through alive. That's going to
Yes.
be brutal. Ciara, thank you for joining
Thank you
us.
so much. I love
and
you. You're
catching
so
up with us.
amazing.
Thank you on the Slay podcast. You've brought us some amazing advice. Hopefully, I'll be on the market or the housing market within a few months by now.
Yeah, you will.
I'm looking forward to getting out and seeing what's out there in the inventory. And, we've got to catch up and work out sometime.
Yes, we will. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
In summary, I heard a Gary Keller quote once that said, "Success is actually a short race, a sprint fueled by discipline, just long enough for the habit to kick in and take over." That concludes this episode of Slay. Stay tuned for more empowering discussions on female health, fitness, and life. You can follow me at Louise Hazel on social media, and you can follow Ciara at Ciara Short, especially if you're looking for a beautiful home in LA. Check out the brand Slay Athletic now, and don't forget to subscribe to the Slay podcast if you haven't done so already on Spotify, and leave us a review. You can also get all of the tools and resources from our podcasts on the Slay app. Download it now for free from the App Store and join our online community.